Hayatımızda olup biten her şey karanlık odada beliren fotoğraf kareleridir. Onlar, hatırladıklarımız gerçekliğin gölgeleridir. Işık verilen kağıttaki biçimler kimyasal bir...
I don't know if I should call it reality, but it's a way of remembering things. In Gulyabani's case, there was this obstacle that the main subject of the film, main protagonist, she does not allow me to show her in the film. So that was the promise. So that promise shaped the film itself, that how can you make a film about someone without showing that person? And I didn't want to do something with the POVs. But I also wanted to show the audience that how she sees things, how she remembers things from her childhood, from her adult years. So when I start working on that, I found a way to mix film formats, because the generation she comes from, that at that time the film was the only format. Also some photographs and some home videos. She after she passed away, she left all these materials. So I choose to experiment with the medium itself. So I shot a lot of test footage without going nowhere, I was experimenting with pinhole cameras. I was experimenting with lights, because her sightseeing, she got sick, she has this illness, so her sightseeing was not so strong. She was seeing a lot of lights, but all of these elements was related to her, to her psyche, her mind. So it was actually, it started as an obstacle, that okay, let's find a way to not to show the main protagonist, but it turned into something else, that she could, the character actually remembers things, but at the same time she could see what will happen in the future. So the things we see in the film is a mixture of everything. And it was much more fun to do that in this way, actually. I know the character very well. She was a part of our family. She was adopted by my grandfather, but we didn't know her past. We only know her that she was not dating with anyone. She studied. She became a nurse. And somehow my grandfather supported her and somehow saved her, because there's this culture in Turkey which we call beslemelik. If you see some child being abused or treating badly, you could take that child and take care of that person without any paperwork. So this is how I met that. I know about that person. But if I go back to your question, first of all, I wanted to make about a film about right-wing regimes and who has supernatural beliefs. If you think about, for instance, if you look at it now, all the repressive regimes or right-wing ideologies have something to do with the supernatural beliefs, or occult, I must say, because they think that they got chosen by a greater power. So this is their main motivation when they deal with the system, when they change the system, or when they abuse the system itself. So since this system thinks that they got chosen by supernatural power, they always had this strange relationship with clairvoyants and imams, or some spiritual people around them, enabled to protect them. So that's how they ended up meeting with this little girl, because she became notorious. She became very well known that she's got powers and talents. So the main idea was actually about that, about this having this system, these army coup generals abuse. Not only they are abusing this little girl, they are abusing the whole new generation with that. In case with politics or gender or whatever it is, but there are personal aspect to it, because I know the person, but we didn't know about her life too much because she was very private and secretive. Even though when she was in a hospice, which she was in the last stage of her illness, she started talking about it, and then we had some, information about or timeline about her life, and but I use this character as a metaphor of trauma itself, as a metaphor of a trauma which everyone went through during the army coups in the 70s and the 80s. So I like to mix all of these elements with the supernatural and the politics and or the daily life banality. So there are a lot of banality going on within Gulyabani. That we are seeing some images which is nothing happening. It's very, some you could see some children walking, or you could see some, little boy hanging around the beach, which she thinks he's her son. So I mixed all of these elements in able to reflect this trauma actually. When I decided to make that film, I was constantly visiting southeast of Turkey, and I was looking at the geography. I was looking at the historical artifacts, and I see that there is this pagan identity exists there way before Islam arrives at these places. So there is this Nemrut mountain statues, which is their heads cut, which no one knows why that happens. So there is this pagan element in the film. That film is actually suggesting that pagan gods sent some stones in able to stop the war, because that geography is belong to Kurdish people, not the Turkish state. So that belief was coming. So that's why it was that idea started as a joke that I was talking with my editor, and I said, okay, we're going to do a psychedelic documentary. And she said, oh, what do you mean by psychedelic documentary? And that joke went into the real, that we mixed all these ideas in able to reflect today's huge problems or human rights issues. And actually this happened because I'm also a documentary filmmaker. When I was starting on that meteor started to fall, and that idea came naturally. And we just had to record it, or we reached to people who have recorded the images so that we could use as a found footage in the film. So it's a mixture of all of it actually. But it's the same kind of approach. So it's correct. It's the same kind of approach, but the meteors actually came out of anger, and some anger towards the patriarchy in Turkey, that which they never allow Kurdish people live their own cities. They want to rebuild it. First they ruined it, and then they want to rebuild it. So there was this shift of geography. So it's also a film about geography.